Ever wondered what the best power racket available is? Well, in this video, I'm going to take you through my top 5. Number 1 is without doubt the best power racket, and I think probably one of the best tennis rackets available. Number 4, bit of a surprise. You won't expect it. Stay tuned and check out my top 5 power rackets. Explosion. Today I'm going to be taking you through my top 5 power rackets. Now, what is a power racket? A power racket is a stiff frame that has loads of structure to it, and the racket stays stiffer and straighter on contact with the ball. So imagine if you were playing tennis with a piece of steel that had no flex in it at all. Ball would bounce off and it would go really hard, really fast back. If you're playing with a bit of flimsy plastic, on impact the flimsy plastic would curve around the ball and thus have less power, but you'd probably have a little more control about where you're trying to direct it. And that is how the power versus control rackets work. The stiffer the racket, more power. The more flexible the racket, more control. Now, there are elements to it, string pattern, swing weight, things like that. But for the purpose of today, I'm going to be looking at each brand's best and most popular power rackets and my personal top 5 amongst them. So who are power rackets really for? Now, there's a couple of different ways of thinking about this. If you play with lots of power, if you like to hit the ball hard, then you might think, oh, I need a racket that gives some control to try and harness the power that I naturally create. And you wouldn't necessarily be wrong for thinking that. But you might also think the opposite. Oh, I play a power game, so I need a racket that complements my play style. And that's definitely the camp that I sit in. I think you should get a racket that suits and enhances your personal game style. So I like to attack, I like to take the ball on, I like to be positive and come forwards and volley. And so a power racket suits that. It means that because I'm not that controlled and I don't produce loads of spin, the racket doesn't help me do those things, but what it does is it enhances the playability and the aspects of my game that are positive and that I like to do. So don't think, I've a very controlled style of play, I use a lot of spin, I like to be safe and keep it in, I could do with some more power, I'll get a power racket. That's not necessarily the case. You probably want to use a racket that complements your game and look to add more strings to your bow outside of that rather than trying to use the equipment to suit. So when we're talking about a power racket, it's for people who probably play an aggressive attacking game and want to put their opponent under more and more pressure all the time. In at number 5. At number 5, we have the Wilson Ultra 100. Now, this is Wilson's power racket. So why? Wilson, good quality tennis brand, why would their power racket not be higher in my top 5? And if I'm honest, it's because it's the least powerful of all the power rackets. Like I was saying earlier, you want a racket that complements your game. This probably is the one that does a little bit of the opposite. All the Wilson rackets are quite similar in terms of the type of player they're for. They're for a modern player, a vertical swing, someone who has a long, fast swing, and this is just a stiffer version than the other Wilson rackets in the range. So one of the reasons why Wilson rackets are quite similar is they all have, or a lot of them have 45 technology in it, and this is the way the racket flexes. Like I said at the start, power rackets tend not to flex that much. So by putting in a material that helps the racket flex, whilst that has its huge advantages in terms of playability and feel and control, is naturally going to detract from the ultimate power that a racket can produce, which is why the Wilson Ultra, whilst a very nice power racket because it has good elements of control within it, when it comes to pure power, what I'm rating today, it is stuck at number 5 in my rankings. In at number 4, we have a big surprise. Certainly to me when we first tried these rackets, and as we've used more and more of them, we think it's certainly a winner. And it is the Prince Beast. This is the 100, the 300 gram one. There is a new 98, which is also very nice. And we do have a specific review on that Beast 98, this came out this year. But the Beast 100, without giving too much away, although those of you who've seen my videos will probably have guessed what my number 1 will be, this Beast is very much like a Pure Drive from a circa 8 years ago. And it allows for easy access to power, it's nice and stiff, but it is quite soft. And I think it's the Textreme technology, which Prince have got in the throat of the racket, keeps it nice and soft, so it doesn't feel like a stiff power racket, whilst still giving you the playability of it. So a big surprise to us. I mean, cosmetically and name-wise, maybe the Beast wouldn't be what I would have chosen, but when you're actually playing with it, and people who've tested it often buy it, which is often a very big green flag for a racket that's tested often and then purchased afterwards. So the Beast 300 is my number 4 power racket. In at number 3 on my list, it is a new release. Not a new racket, but a new release. It is from Head, and there's 2 options which I also really like about it. It is the Boom MP. So we have the alternate color, the Cocoa Goth colorway, and we have the standard inline black and blue? Teal? Not really sure, color's not my thing. So this is the Boom MP 2024, and the alternate color, my personal favorite of them. And it's just a really great racket. I mean, we love the Head range. Your Zetic 2.0 technology is really nice. It really stiffens the racket on contact. And in a power frame, this is exactly what you want. So you can argue that in some of the more control-based frames, your Prestiges and Speeds, that Zetic doesn't necessarily match up what you want. But in a power frame, the fact that on contact, the auxetic material tightens and stiffens, becomes more rigid, allows you to generate even more power, and the feeling of stability on contact with this Boom, very, very nice. Now, for some of you in the comments, I'm sure will be about to write, what about the Boom Pro? Isn't that a better racket, a proper racket? Absolutely, the Boom Pro is a better racket than this MP, but not as powerful. So if it was just talking about which one generates me more power and is probably more fun to use, I would pick the MP over the Pro, which is why the Boom MP 2024 alternate colorway is my 3rd racket on the list. In at number 2 on my list, at number 2, hailing from the Far East, from Japan, it is of course Yonex, and it is of course the Ezone. Now, this is the Ezone 100 I have in front of me because we've sold out of my number 2 racket, which is the Ezone 98. Now, Josh, why would you want an Ezone 98 when you're talking about pure power? And the 98, the smaller head size, obviously diminishes some of that power in favor of some control. And yes, the 100 is a more powerful frame. However, when it comes to the best power rackets, the 98 loses a tiny amount on power, but it gains you a lot on playability. Slightly heavier at 305 grams, which gives you a bit more weight through the ball, which more than makes up for that slightly smaller head size. The great thing about the Yonex range, and the Ezones in particular, is the build quality and the consistency that they get across all of their rackets. If you buy 2 Ezone 98s, they're going to be within a gram of each other. Swing weights are going to be within a gram of each other. So you're going to have a much more consistent pair of rackets. But when you actually play with them, the feel and the control you get whilst maintaining power is the big selling point. And it's why these are so popular. Kind of aptly named the Easy One, EZ1, Easy One, the Ezone. Easy to use, all-round playability, all-round power. If you have a shorter swing, you like to counter punch like I do, then this is going to be a good choice for you when it comes to a power frame. So in at number 2, the Yonex Ezone 98. In at number 1, it is a big surprise. Nobody could have guessed it. Hailing from France, it is the Pure Drive, and none other than the 30th anniversary. Look at it, it's so sleek, the feel of it's nice, all with their individual pattern. It is power personified. 300 grams, 100 square inch head, a nice standard set of spec for a power racket. If you are looking to crush the ball, drive your opponent back and dominate the court, you would look no further than the Pure Drive. Now, if you want some touch and feel, some spin, you don't want that. If you just want power, this is your boy. And as this is the top power racket, the Pure Drive has to come to the top because it's the most powerful. It may not be the best racket, and there might be others that have less power but make up for it in other areas. But when it comes to power, if you are just trying to dominate and crush through the ball, you cannot look any further than Babalt's Pure Drive. It's stiff, surprisingly comfortable, and allows you to attack, attack, attack. So my number one power racket, and what should be your racket in your bag, like it is mine, the Babalt Pure Drive. So here are my top 5 power rackets, all in a lovely group. What a great tennis bag that would be to have one of each of these. So as I said at the start, power rackets, they're stiffer, they're designed for people who I think we want to complement an already powerful game. Generally, you probably have a shorter, punchier, counter-punching sort of swing. You have a long, faster swing, you're going to want a different style of racket. But if you've got a slower or shorter swing, then a power frame is the frame for you. And any of these are going to be great options to try, of course, with the Pure Drive being the first one of the bunch. I hope you enjoyed our top 5. We have loads of other top 5s coming, as well as our coaching videos. So please subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see you in the next video. I just clapperboarded my finger in the... I've cut myself. Clapperboarded my finger.
Oh shit.